all you wanted to do was send pictures of your Thames fish out, talk about them, tell us how you've caught them, and now all of a sudden you don't want to.
True.
So the question I'm asking is, what has happened between now and then on the Thames? Are you getting bullied?
Now than what he does on the river.
No, he's getting bullied on the river. Is everything all right?
Right, Kev, I'm dropping you a photo over.
Because normally you'd just be like, oh, look, I've caught.
Yeah, but I'm...
Show them all.
You show everyone you've caught 4 times each side on Instagram.
Why don't we just look at one?
No, I don't want to see it.
Right.
I'm just saying that is everything all right on the Thames?
Thinking Tackle Podcast.
He wants to talk about it now.
Well, I don't want to talk about it.
We can talk about it.
No, I'm
But
not.
you don't want to talk
You're
about
dying
No, I
to
do.
talk about
You
it.
don't want to talk about it, and I'm saying that something's massively changed because the week before, last week,
We couldn't shut you up.
all you wanted to do was send pictures of your Thames fish out, talk about them, tell us how you've caught them, and now all of a sudden you don't want to.
True.
So the question I'm asking is, what has happened between now and then on the Thames? Are you getting bullied?
A serious question.
Yeah.
Have you ever known him to not talk about any capture of any species at any time?
No, especially when he's got a chance to talk about it in front of 30,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that if we do it
I think he's
every
getting more
week...
bullied now than what he does on the river.
No, he's getting bullied on the river.
No, I'm
You are
thinking
getting-
if we do it every single week, it is going to be Z in L, isn't it? People are going to be like, oh, okay.
It's never stopped, but it never bothered you before.
That's but a point. Is everything all right?
Right, Kev, I'm dropping you a photo over.
Is everything
No,
right?
I don't want. We don't want to see it.
No.
We don't want to see it. I'm concerned about your well-being.
Well, yeah, because all of a sudden you've gone very quiet, and we know you're catching.
Why don't we put one up? Yeah. Eh?
It's just
He's
gonna
not
reject
accepting it.
No,
We don't want to talk
I was
about
going
it.
to say, why don't we put
No,
one
honestly,
up? And why don't I
Kev
say?
just wants to start.
I'm not going to bore everyone with everything that's been
the
going
po-
on because we're making a film.
The point is that you're probably right. You don't want to talk about it all the time, but that's a weird thing for you to say, and something has happened for you to trigger that idea. Because normally you'd just be like, oh, look, I've caught.
Yeah, but I'm thinking we don't want to talk about it all the time and it get boring.
Mm.
2, I like the fact that we're doing a film on this. So it'd be nice if most of it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Like it'd be nice.
Again, never stopped you before.
No, and that's also not true. You're just going to see a picture. People are going to really want to see the film if you're teasing it with pictures.
Yeah, but you don't show everyone you've caught, do you?
Yeah.
But like you do on all the mainline videos you've done, show them all.
You show
repeatedly.
everyone you've caught 4 times each side on Instagram.
A modern day
I don't
Richard.
do that
Anyway,
anymore.
Kevin, we started.
Hold on.
Okay, we can get going now.
Why don't we just look at one?
No, I don't want to see it.
Right.
I'm just saying that is everything all right on the Thames?
In that case, welcome everybody to the Thinking Tackle Uncut Podcast. I've just been bullied beyond
Not
belief
by
here
us.
this morning. No, we'll
For the
talk about
second
it in a
time
minute.
this week.
People on the Thames.
As you can see, Damo's got better looking, and we've got a
And
guest
bigger.
in today, which is nice for me. And actually, it's the one time I'm probably not going to tell a big long story and get told off for talking too much, and he's not here. We've got a guest, and it's the very one and only Tom Maker.
Welcome, Tom.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you very
Arguably the man of the moment at Korda at the moment.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that.
Well, we'd say you are. So we're going to pick Tom's brains about what he's been up to. He's been up to something in particular recently because a big film has just dropped that's going down very well. So we'll talk about that to begin with. But first of all, we're just going to get out of the way, or not get out of the way, give someone one of these cracking Thinking Tackle Uncut Podcast Spooner's 50 mugs, because Spooner, I'm afraid it is honestly like people are catching 50s every week.
Yeah.
Because I think we've just got another 5 to look at, that's all.
You caught
Um,
one not so long ago, didn't you?
Yeah, end of April.
No,
You did.
Oh, so
you
you're
ran
outside the
out to
cut-off.
Little
Quite a
spring
quite a
camp.
while
Oh, was he?
ago.
He's
Ages
outside the
ago now.
cut-off. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been great if Tom was getting a Spooner's 50 cup today. Need to hire it on catch one. So we're going to chuck them up, and we're going to have a little look at them first, because there's a nice array of them there, as you can see. Mainly mirrors with an absolute monster common. So if we look at...
Talk us through them, really.
I'll talk you through them. So top left is a fish called moonscale from a place that me and Tom know quite well, the Essex Manor.
Cracking bit of
is it?
fish.
Cracking bit of fish.
Essex Manor's coming back round, it seems. Look at that.
Yeah,
a lovely
£50 10. And you knew straight away, didn't you? As soon as I said to you, I said, you fish there, and you said Manor straight away. It has got that sort of
Vibe
look
to it.
It's a lovely carp.
Cracking
Is
carp,
that down?
innit?
Is that down the end? Is it? Right
I've
down
never
the
been
end.
there.
End pads.
I don't
Lovely
know.
little place.
Big oak
Is
tree
it?
there, I don't
You
know.
fished it?
Tom guested me years ago.
Oh, right.
He caught George's actually.
I called
Did you?
George's fish
On a-
before it was called George's
George's
fish,
fish.
but because I was on a guest, I couldn't name it.
That's an
I
amazing
will call
carp,
it
that.
Tom's. Just rename it.
Yeah.
It's Tom's, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it dead now?
Probably.
Or is George's still
George's
about?
is gone now.
I don't know.
It ended up being the biggest fish in the lake,
That went
didn't it,
to
for a while?
50.
Yeah.
It
That's
did,
a really
yeah.
nice carp.
No, that's not in there anymore, I'm pretty sure.
No.
No. Okay, so moving on. Next one across.
Yeah.
That big deep mirror. That is Tony Watson. He's just said it's from an Essex water, and that's a 52-pounder. That's a monster, isn't
Another cracking bit of fish.
Yeah, that could be a big one. And then we go across there to a very recognisable fish, which is the Waterside Common, and that's Jack Wilshire, and that is 64 pound. And I believe he caught that off the top.
He did. Ironically, as far as that is away from us now, is as far as we were from it when we fished it.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Insane that is, that fish.
Is that the biggest fish ever caught off the top?
Oh, it's got to be.
Yeah, got to be.
Got to be,
in
innit?
the UK. It's got to be.
Yeah. That is a monster.
It's a big carp.
That
is a big carp.
64.
Yeah.
It's a cool carp as well.
And the one below, which is a lovely shot, that is Paul Kersey, and it's obviously his boy, I presume, so that's a cracking little family photo. And that's from actually Embryo's Broom Lake.
Wow.
Is
They're
it?
getting big.
Spoons, haven't you?
No, I haven't fished
You haven't fished
Broom.
Broom?
No.
That used to have a monster common in, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Bullion.
Bullion, yeah.
It's the one that Dan done, one of the Thinking Tackles and Masterclass.
No, Landmark. Landmark was the big common.
Okay. That's £51.6.
Wow.
Monster. And then the last one is...
Spooner.
Yeah, I know what you've done here, Spoon. Nice try. His name's actually Robbie Williams. I hope he's not trolling us there. He could be. But that's from Holborn Cotswold Holiday Park. It's a fish known as rubber lips, and that's £54.
I've never seen him before.
No. Big
That
old
fish.
carp.
Yeah.
Almost a leather,
You
isn't
can
it?
book. You can book accommodation on there and fish in the days.
Yeah,
Okay,
nice.
have you fished that one then?
No, I haven't fished it.
Right, okay.
But it's somewhere that I would fish. It's just over the road from where my syndicate is, that is.
Yeah,
Oh,
nice. Isn't it
right.
Miles Gibson's place?
He's got a holiday let there.
Right, okay.
It's one of the waters on the water park, but there's
got
holiday
ya.
lets that you can book out. Obviously, once you're there, you get permission to fish. But I think it's days only.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, he's done
Well, that
well there
makes
then
it-
to winkle that out in a day session.
Oh, it mixes things up a bit.
He's even catching them on the day. He's just having a couple of hours.
a few hours
He's catching one.
On a family holiday as well.
Well, we're gonna deal with this quite quickly because we all had a little chat before, and I think you're not catching 64-pound commons off the top very often.
No,
so
that's a
it's-
very special catch.
I feel very unfortunate for the other lads that have caught them cracking fish, but you're up against it there.
But the
64
only
pound.
thing is, it's not a 50,
That's true. That's
That
not
is
true.
true.
Yeah.
but it is 50 plus.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 50 pluses are in, haven't they? They
They've
are
got to
in.
be,
Yeah,
pluses
they're
are
in.
in, yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool cup. So well done, Jack. You have got yourself a Thinking Tackle Uncut podcast mug.
Well done, Jack. Pleased for you, mate.
Yeah, yeah, and keep them coming in. I mean, if we're getting 5 a week, it's just we're not going to churn through these.
Gonna
We're gonna
run
have to order
out.
some more. But yeah, well done, Jack, and
done,
keep them
boys.
coming in.
Yeah,
Nice.
incredible.
Well done, the lads. So let's move on to you, Tom. As I said before, you've just had your Gigantica film, which was how many years between going there?
Would have been about getting on for 15, I reckon, since I
15
last
years.
fished there. Yeah.
So a lot's changed in that time on that lake, which I know Tom had a couple of questions about. But yeah, tell us a bit about it first. How did it go down, and how did you find it?
Mate, it was unbelievable. Like, obviously, I was meant to be booked to do something else, and there was always the possibility of going to Gigantica to fish on the main lake. And it was going in the draw of like with the guys that were on there. Obviously, I'd never met any of the guys that were there, and I sort of got the call from Lewis. I think it was like the Friday before, and he's like, "There's a good chance you're going to be going," and it was almost a bit of a last-minute trip, really. But it's one of them places where you can't turn down going, can you? Like,
really can't.
You know, even though it's been a long time since I fished there, I remember what it was like back then, and it was only ever going to get better and the fish get bigger. And whilst I was there, I kept saying to Kai, like, you know, we could be fishing for a carp that could be 3 digits. Like, that is insane when you think of it. Like, and when you put it into perspective, like how busy that lake is, that carp doesn't come out. And it come out a couple of weeks after, £105.
Yeah,
So
so
all
that-
the whilst you're there, like,
It was £100.
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
whoa.
It might have been feeding on your spot.
Yeah.
Probably was.
It's like fishing for a Siamese, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
madness.
You just never know, do you? And like how the guy caught that fish in the end was how probably most anglers go
Yeah.
there and fish. So it shows that you're always close to it, but it just takes that one sort of moment to catch it. Unbelievable.
I'm
Incredible.
surprised it doesn't come out more. I know we've covered this before in a podcast, so I won't dwell on it. But
Quite a lot of them do that in there, though.
yeah,
But
You know, they
you
do
could-
1-2 captures a year, or maybe don't come out for 2, 3, 4 years. Sometimes they go missing for 8 years.
just when
you
you're
can
that
see why.
big,
But
you
you can see why though.
yeah.
Because it's deep. Going back years ago, I fished a place called Mercer's Park, and in the out of bounds, you could throw 18mm boilies in, and the carp would eat them on the way down. And I think those fish in there have been conditioned. Like, if you could spot over zigs in there, like, I think it would be unbelievable. Because I think those fish have conditioned themselves to the minute they're hearing that spom going, they're eating that bait on the way down, and they know there's no danger there. because for them fish to go that long between captures and put that much weight on, like the guy next to me caught armadillo, and that was its third capture in 14 years.
Jesus.
Ridiculous.
I think you can spot over zigs.
You can put one zig out.
Yeah, but if it was unbelievable, then you'd still get them on that.
But then I don't think a lot of people would do it on there because it's that got the big fish in there, so a lot of people wouldn't do it. But it's not until you go there, because we had a drone up obviously for filming, but you could see the cloud from the bait. But you could see as the cloud was going down, it was moving. Like you couldn't see fish, but the only thing that could have made it move was fish there.
Yeah.
Whether that was carp, bream, tench, or whatever. But there's so many big carp in there, like they have to be getting away with it a lot more than what you think.
It's a great point, and like you were just saying, if it was unbelievable, we'd be doing it. I think it takes quite a lot, doesn't it, to pay all that money, get all your kit together, go on the trip with the lads, and then just bomb over zigs. Like I think a lot of people will feel like they should be fishing on the bottom, and also them other lads have paid the same money. They're all trying to make it happen, aren't they? And then you're in the middle with 3 zigs out, just levering your spom constantly. I think that plays in people's minds that maybe you shouldn't be doing that as well a lot of the time, even though it's good angling and it's a great way of catching them. If the bloke next to you is just literally not putting his spom down for 2 or 3 hours, it's going to wind you up.
I don't know, Matt. I think if you were battering them, people would quickly do it. We've talked about it quite a lot before. Me and Jake were sitting in the swim you were in actually before, because Jake was catching lots, and we were like, do you think they're eating out of the spom? And he was convinced they are as well. Yeah. And I'm not sure that Jake done it either, but I'm sure somebody will have tried it.
But I think
somebody
will
have tried it.
Yeah, but it's also good that people don't try it, because you can only fish one zig anyway, so you'd have to commit the one rod and it'd be almost pointless doing it. But it also allows the fish to feed freely, whereas if they feel there's danger all the time, they might not eat as much. Whereas we all know what happens if fish are not pressured when they're being fed. They will feed a lot more confidently, and that's how I would see it. You know, they're feeding a lot more confident. I could feel the fish on Monday. We had a really good day, and as I was chucking out, because the wind was off my back, it made feeling everything so much easier, and I could actually feel it going down through carp before it got to the bottom. But eventually it was almost like you would put bait out, you'd get a bite, and then they would show, almost as if to say, like, put more bait out. You know, like they needed something to take them down. Because, you know, when you look at 24 foot, when you lay 2 rods along the floor, it doesn't look that much. You know, when you're feeling it with your lead, it feels like it takes forever to hit the bottom, but it's not actually that far down. You know, and one little kick of the tail and then fish are down. And whatever they eat on the way down, they definitely follow the rest of the bait down, and then that's when they start feeding. But I mean, it was unbelievable. Like I could have stayed there for a month and not even thought about anything else, like coming home or nothing. It's that type of place, because you don't know what the next fish will be.
What are your session spooner? The old mother. Yeah.
When you're feeling because I've had that before at Gigantica as well. Actually, last time I was there, I felt fish on the way down. Do you, or not even just there, but just in general, when you feel the fish, do you think your lead's actually hitting the carp, or do you think the line is sort of pulling around the fish and then pulling down past it?
I think a lot of it's the line. Don't get me wrong.
I think
the lead,
it's the line.
Because if the lead was rolling off the fish, I think you would potentially foul hook fish, because you'll be dragging a rig through them.
You really do.
So I think it's the lines pulling through, because you've got more chance of a long length of line pulling over a carp.
Yeah.
And, you know, in reality, your lead's as big as a carp scale, isn't it? So you've got more chance of it being the line.
Yeah.
But when they're on you like that and you're going through them, then you chuck out and it lands where you want it. But by the time that line's gone through the carp, has it offset the lead from where you need? You know, there's so many questions you're never going to be able to answer.
Do you redo it if you feel the fish on the way down?
No, I'll leave it. But because I fish with tight lines, you watch where the line is, and you can see the direction changes. Because obviously, if they're moving through, you imagine if a carp spooks and it gets hooked over the dorsal, like you can see how much it drags the lead on the bottom. Imagine it's happening mid-water where there's no resistance to stop that lead from being pulled. But like that's the importance of fishing with a tight line, so you can see the direction of exactly where you're fishing.
How many did you catch in the end?
19 I had.
A decent week on
It's a
there.
lovely week.
I lost 3, which is a bit unfortunate. I lost a small one to a hook pull, one to a snag that they didn't know was there, and then one of them randomly went in the same snag, bolted out of the snag and sort of come up the shelf. So I'll give Kai the rod, waded down, and there was just like a mid-20 just sat there on the tree. But because the barbless hooks, as I got close to it, it sort of shook its head and it come off. So really I lost 2, because that one I pretty much could have touched.
You nearly lost another one having a number 2 as well, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Kai played it in, but it's mad, isn't it? Because you know, a lot of people when it comes to barbless hooks, they think, they're just going to fall off, this and that. But, you know, Kai played it. Bearing in mind I'm left-handed, he's right-handed, so he's not used to playing it that way round. He's obviously ringing me on the phone, and the fish stays on. Like I've got so much more confident in barbless hooks this year than what I've ever had.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. We like sit behind barbless hooks and worry about it, but when you sort of look back over your results from Gigantica or any embryo water, you don't lose any more.
No, it's weird.
You really don't.
It is weird.
No.
With cranks anyway.
Yeah.
Definitely with
Great.
Great.
I know the guy that invented them.
They wind themselves in, didn't they? They are good. They're a good barbless, actually.
Really good barbless.
Yeah.
They've got everything that you need, though. You've got the in-turn point. You've got the sight offset. You know, the fish I caught at my syndicate were barbless.
Yep.
Gigantica was barbless.
And they're straight barbless. You're not crushing them.
No, they're at the packet barbless.
Lovely.
And then, obviously, the billies fish, they're all on barbless as well.
J-
And I think of all of those fish, I probably had about 5 hook pulls, which that's quite a lot of fish as
You
well.
should have had a barb on, you'd have had none.
There's some
Honestly, don't come off. No, it does make, it's tension, isn't it? It's only about the tension. I think you only lose them when something really unfortunate happens in the fight.
You just got to be steady with them. Like, you know, I always play them to the side, constant gentle pressure, and then when they get underneath the tip, you know, not giving them a load, but at the same time you don't want to be too jolty with the clutch or with your back one. As long as everything's nice and smooth.
Yeah.
You know, most of the match anglers, they'll all use barbless hooks for ease of getting them out when they get them in the net. I think there's a lot to be said for them personally.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you, Gigantica, do you still like cast blunt hooks out?
Should I be honest?
Yeah.
So it's going to sound really bad. So all of April I'd fished on my syndicate, and I'd used the same 10-inch IQ2 booms for the spinners, and all I'd done is re-spooled my line to put the tapered line on, and I used the same booms there as what I'd used all month in April.
Oh, yeah, that's
on my
fine,
syndicate. Yeah,
that's all right.
But if you look at the video when we first start, the beads have all got like a bit of rust on and stuff,
right.
because one of the hooks was the same hook that I used on my last session on the syndicate, and I just chucked it straight out.
No.
No,
Yeah.
the carp on it.
Wow, Gigantica.
Yeah.
What's
Because it was still perfectly sharp, and I was fishing a 4-ounce lead with a tight clutch at like 120 yards, and like I just still chucked the same hooks out.
Isn't that losing the immaculate the net? Oh, was it the
Oh,
rust?
so-
Was it the
was
rusty
rusty
hook? Was it
one.
the
Knew
bead?
it.
blooming
You know, like
round
when they're
going?
just in your bag and that, and they just go a little bit
Yeah.
like.
I really
little
don't
bit
know that.
tainted.
I can't even use the same hook the following night if I ain't had anything. I just never do.
If it sticks in my nail, it's good enough to go back out. That's the way I always look at it.
Yeah.
You know, you're fishing a long way out. You've
Yeah.
got a tight line. You know, the mono's got that natural stretch to it. Once they pick it up, it's almost like a bit of a bungee. They're sort of going like this, and
Yeah.
them hooks ain't going nowhere. Nowhere.
Love your confidence.
Yeah, it was good. You ain't never worrying then,
No,
are
your
you?
results
No.
speak for themselves, mate.
Are you going to
so-
go back again, do you think, as a pleasure trip, or would you like to go back and film again?
So the guys who I went with on this trip, they've said if there's a space comes up next year, I could go with them. But if there was ever a space come up, I'd 100% go back.
It's a special place. There's no denying it. There's something about a bite on that place where, because of what's swimming around, you just never know.
I mean, obviously you got that immaculate common, you know, which when you look at it, it's a 100-pounder. It's effectively like your trophy fish, isn't it? But you sort of brush over what else is in there because of that. But you shouldn't, because when you sit there and have your tea in the evening, you just look at all these fish, and you just think to yourself, like, that's a 70, that's an 80, that's a 70, that's a 60. And you know, there's so many of them. And like a couple of the shots we got on the video were like aerial drone shots. And when you actually stop them and you look down at them fish, like there is a lot of big fish in there. I mean, there's 92 different fish when we went over 50.
That's right.
Which is a lot of big carp, that is.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It is
When you
insane.
think about
And they're
it.
the ones that have been recorded. So you could say there's at least 8 or 10 that are probably over that haven't
Yeah,
been
could
recorded.
well
So there's
be.
100 fish in there, over 50 pounds. And there's 900 carp in there?
Yeah, give or take.
More, I think.
Imagine seeing that drained. It's a little eyeball, all them just flapping around. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
madness.
It's an
You're
amazing
due a
stock.
bigging out
Yeah.
there.
I am due.
When are you going
Yeah.
back?
September.
Goes
Any
with his
space?
mates.
No,
There isn't,
Are you
actually.
going out?
No, you
We're
must
not
be joking.
there, are
It's
we?
mates only.
Mates
mate.
only. You go, Neil.
Oh, yeah. Of course it is, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, if a space comes up, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But it won't come up.
It won't.
Not this
It's
year.
not going to come up.
Not this year.
Nobody gives up the spaces, and there's always people asking to get on. But yeah, I absolutely love it there. I've actually got a couple of questions because me and Spoon have obviously fished against you a couple of times, and then I'll watch the films like that and obviously see how many you catch. So there's zero doubt that you are an absolute master of spot building, or at least making the most of the time that the fish are on you. And there are a few things I think that people do that sort of lead themselves to compounding your fish captures into something that's insane, which is what you do all the time. One of them is how many spoms do you put out first of all, and then how many spoms would you put out after that, after each fish, and is that always the same?
It's not always the same, especially out there. You've got to, even our fish lakes with a lot of carp in, somewhere like Gigantica, if you equate how many fish are in there, the size of the fish, the biomass of that lake is probably far greater than anywhere else I would fish.
Yeah.
Because of the amount, you've got say 150s in there. That's straight away probably more biomass than most of the lakes I'd fish. So I up the bait slightly there because of the size of the fish. And you've got to imagine, we've all seen the underwaters, they come in, you don't hook every carp that's there. But what a lot of people don't consider is the smaller fish. You've got big roach in there, and that's one of the things I'll move on to, which definitely help me catch more carp. You've got a lot of roach in there, and you've got a lot of bream in there, so you're not only feeding the carp, there's a good chance that most of the bait you're putting out is getting eaten by those smaller fish. So I started with 30 spoms, but what I done...
So on day one, Sunday night,
but I made
Saturday night.
On Saturday night,
Is that midi-X's?
Yeah, the midi-X's, which was about just over half of like the middle-sized bucket.
Yeah.
What you do, so what are they, like 11-litre buckets or something like that, 10-litre buckets?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 10s. You've got 17 10s and then the small one.
Just over half of one of those out. But I made a mistake because I put sweet corn out, and that obviously attracted a lot of smaller fish into the swim. But I woke up on the Sunday morning, it was a bit of a standing joke. I was the only one on that bank that hadn't caught a carp. Everyone else had a carp, and I had 2 roach, basically. So I changed it, and I just went over to just straight boilies and hemp, and that was the difference. But the bait that I put out initially, I was confident after catching those 2 roach that because it was small bits, it was like chopped boilies, some of the pellets that they do there, and sweet corn, that all of that bait was gone. So I just basically reset the whole session,
right,
and started again. It's almost like the first night was a bit of a tester.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did on the second night, the second day, was I took the sweet corn topper off because it was quite evident that the small fish were attacking that. But if you notice in the film, I fished with a 12mm barrel wafter, because what I've seen with underwater videos, and I saw it years ago on one, is people using a snowman with little like toppers on. The roach were picking them up, but they weren't getting bites. So there's never an indication that there's fish on the spot. So people just automatically assume that there's no fish feeding.
So you're getting no feedback.
Yeah.
You want a small enough bait on your hook to get feedback.
You're not getting a
from what's
liner because you're fishing mono at that depth, but you're not getting any indication off of these roach, because all the rigs we use now, let's be honest, they reset themselves, so you wouldn't know if they've been done by a roach or not. Everyone's tying the hook baits on, blobbing them down, so the roach can't pull them off. But I carried on using a 12mm barrel wafter, which was small enough to go inside a roach, but it was also a decent sized hook bait for a carp, and I kept catching roach in between carp, so I knew the bait was constantly getting eaten. And even in the quiet spell, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was still catching the odd roach and bream every now and again, so I knew I was getting done, and I just kept the bait trickling. After each fish I would put like 5 in. Normally I put 3 in, but I put 5 in.
Well, so normally you would put, say you had caught, well no, move forward to the day you started getting bites. Right, so how much bait, how many spoms had you put out by that point?
So the first bucket and the second bucket was 60 spoms.
60 spoms. So Saturday, Sunday
was 60.
60. Monday you started getting bites.
Monday, I caught 2 on the Sunday.
Okay.
On the Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
We went round for tea.
Yeah.
I come back, put more bait out. The nights are
so you put out another. How much did you put out?
When I come back after tea, I put out another 15.
So now you're 75.
Yeah. So you're like, because by that time I was like, right, I am committing. Like I'd gone there with a bit of a game plan. Like bearing in mind, it's important to note the trips before there, I'd never caught a carp out there off the bottom. I'd only ever caught them off of zigs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, right, I've caught 2. I'm committed now. Like I'm not going to change. Ben the bailiff is an amazing guy. He'll tell you where to fish from every peg. But I sort of worked out that the majority of the guys that are maybe going there are fishing 15 to 20 rod lengths. But fishing out in the middle, they're probably not seeing as much bait out there as what they would do shorter. So out in the middle, they're going to be a bit easier to catch because they're probably not expecting such a big bed of bait out there. So I just kept committing the bait to it. And then I woke up in the morning on the Monday, and that's when it kicked off. And after I'd rechucked the rod, in when I could, because sometimes the rods were going that quick that I couldn't put any more bait out, I'd just put 5 more out, but like really accurate. Like if they were going slightly off, I'd just cut the spool and stop them. because I wanted it as accurate as I possibly could do. And I only fished with 2 rods. Took quite a while to commit all 3 to the spot, and it's a lot easier to get 2 rods side by side than what it is 3, because I wanted to keep the lead noise to a minimum.
This is another question.
Get the spoms out there, and then once that was done, just clean everything up, sit back and just wait. And it was almost like when you spotted, it prolonged a bite, which to me says that they were coming up, but then as that bait got past them, they had to go down, and once they were down and they were feeding, they almost become, not easy to catch, that's the wrong word to say, but a couple of times I chucked a lead out, it hit the bottom, put the bobbin on, and they were gone straight away.
Yeah.
So even though I put a lot of bait out, all of it, there's no way all of that bait was getting eaten at any one time, but there was enough down there that even when it was, say, quieter, there was enough bait on the bottom to draw the fish down. You know, the hemp was a really good thing. I'd spoke to Dan on the Sunday, and he said, how are you getting on? I said, I've had a couple of bream, like this was in the morning, and he's like, just put more hemp in. They definitely like hemp. So I got a bucket of hemp from Ben, the bailiff. As soon as I put that in, with just the amount of boilies, it just upped it straight away.
They do love the hemp out there.
They do love it.
So you would normally put out, say, 30 spoms. You'd get a bite. No matter what, you would always put 5 spoms out after every single fish.
Yeah.
Okay. So say you have, you don't get a moment to put the bait out, and you get all 3 rods go. How much bait do you put out then? Still just 5?
Still the same.
Still just 5.
A key thing with fishing like that is consistency. If you watch a match angler will feed a similar amount or the same amount throughout the whole duration of the match. And how many times do we follow people in a peg, you do something slightly different and it completely dies?
It's like you lose momentum.
I just think the fish, they like that consistency, you know, like, I know it might sound mad, but just the noise of, say, 7 spoms might prolong that next bite for another hour or another 20 minutes, you know. Putting 3 rods on a spot, if it's taking you 10 chucks to get that middle rod out
and
there.
And the rest.
Well, yeah. Well, no, good spread.
Got to get in before you lot
good spread. But you know what I mean? Like, just the noise of those leads going in, that can prolong the bites. Like I always say, the noise of a lead spooks the carp and noise of the spom attracts the carp. And I know obviously that's not for every water, but certainly somewhere like the main lake, there's a lot of carp in there. And whilst they do get spooked off of the pressure, if you fish sensible for them and you don't go crashing in spoms all over the place and you condense that bait down to one area, it's a lot easier to catch them in one area than what it is with like 3 or 4 different areas. So I'd gone there to fully commit to that.
But, sorry, 1 second, I've just got... So the lead thing sort of follows on to my next question. Say you put 30 spoms out, right? You've got your 3 rods on your spot, it's 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You have a bite at 3 in the morning on your middle rod, okay? Do you put the rod back out in the dark, try and get it on the middle spot, or do you think the fish are out there, I could probably get a bite on one of my other rods really quickly, I won't put that out because it's going to prolong the time in which it's going to take for me to get a bite?
I have 2 attempts.
You have 2 attempts?
I have a rule, I'll have 2 attempts. So like, if you notice, I always aim my rods directly at where I'm fishing with a tight line. The beauty with Giganticas, because it's so deep, when you hit the clip and you feel the lead down, you've got about 4 or 5 turns on the reel.
Yeah.
So I'll chuck it out, hit the clip, feel it down. Obviously, you can't see where the lead's gone. Clip the bobbin on, put it on the rest, see where that line goes. If it's slightly to the side of one of the other rods, I'll just swap them around. If it's nowhere near, I'll have another go. If it's still nowhere near, I'll just leave it in. Because sometimes you're better off just leaving it in and having 2 rods perfect rather than continuously casting the 3rd one.
Well, you'll leave it in as in you'll leave it in the lake, not on the spot.
If it's slightly off. So like whenever I'm finding a spot, I'm not looking to fish the edge of it. I want to bait the middle of it because it gives me that play
either side
at night, either side. And that's something out there because it's quite weedy out there on the main lake. Not like bad weed, but there was a lot of like little bits of weed all over. Obviously, I could have adapted my rigs to fish in the weed, but when I got there, I sort of cast around to find sort of a long area, if you like. So if that did happen at night, I had the option to move the rods ever so slightly left and right. Because let's be honest, when you're baiting up, the bait's falling in like an umbrella formation, isn't it? As you imagine, as you undo an umbrella, as that bait's going through the water, it's opening up. So the bait's not going just left and right, it's going front and back as well. So you have got a bit of space either side. But if it's not going right and it's just, I've got to keep chucking, I just think to myself, right, I'm better off with 2 rods out there, and I'll just redo that 3rd one when I feels the right time in the morning.
Sometimes it's all about that rod, though, isn't it? I was going to say, as I was listening to that, as a caveat to what Tom was saying, how often do you find it where even though because obviously you're doing it so often, you probably get this loads. You've got 3 rods fishing tight on a spot, but one rod just does it constantly.
Yeah.
So when you're in that situation, like you were saying, sometimes when you're not thinking about, you were saying leave the rod in for the other 2 rods, sometimes it's just all about that rod, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
but I've had that before in Alcatraz though, and what happened in the end is that if at night I would put 3 rods out, and it's actually easier to sort of handle 2 rods at night, getting one back out really quickly without having to recast
from the
especially
start.
If it's
So from the
actually, I just think it's easier to get more bites with 2 rods sometimes. If you're certainly if the fish are coming from one angle, like if it's your left hand rod that keeps doing it, actually if you leave that left hand rod in, the middle rod goes really quickly after. Then you can get one rod back out, and you've got the rod back out on that side of the spot, and you get another one. Whereas if you were trying to recast that other rod, you might only have caught one in that time. So I'm always constantly trying to play with the amount of rods and how quickly it is to get them back out, and how much bait's on the spot to make the most of the area. That's why I'm asking him how much bait does he put out, and does he bother recasting the middle rod or even the left hand rod if he gets one at night, because it might mean you get a quicker bite.
But there is other things to consider. So like I've been out filming. When it comes to fishing free on a spot or fishing your rods on an area, and you say about 1 rod is going, that could be the undertow has taken more of your bait left or right of the spot. So that's the reason why one side might be better than the other side. And also as well, a recast rod can sometimes get a quicker bite than a rod that's been out there all night, because it keeps the fish guessing where the hook bait is. Like in my head, which probably sometimes doesn't think like everybody else's, I think them carp, as soon as they enter a spot, they suss out what moves and what doesn't move very, very quickly, and they know what a danger zone is, because the amount of times you chuck out and it goes straight away.
Yeah, I agree
and when
with
you
that.
chuck a zig out, they're moving. They're not stagnant. They're not sitting there. When you chuck a zig out, they're constantly spinning. For the first sort of half an hour of a zig being in the water, that's the best time to get a bite. And when you re-chuck a lead and that hook bait's gone in, there could be a fish feeder near, that lead landed there, but because that hook bait's in a different place,
it just picks it up.
they just pick it up.
Yeah.
I think carp very, very quickly suss out what moves and what doesn't move. That's my theory. It might be completely wrong, but I fish long rigs that are very critically balanced, and I sometimes wonder if the hook bait moves a lot more, and it's always keeping them second guessing. I don't know. I might be completely barking up the wrong
mate. I
tree.
don't know. Well, you catch loads, so
Yeah.
it's like you
Right.
can't argue with it.
I was just going to say, when I'm fishing 3 rods on a spot, my mentality really isn't, I'm never really thinking about, and you think a numbers game quite a lot, because you like catching loads of carp, don't you? So
Everyone likes catching loads
everyone
of
likes
carp.
catching loads of
This
carp.
is the thing.
No,
it's
no.
like, when I was thinking about these questions this morning, I was thinking, well, he's like really good at big hit fishing, but that just means you're good at fishing. Of
course it does.
It's like everyone's trying to
Yeah.
catch loads of carp.
They are, but what I'm saying is maybe the venues I've fished maybe not quite as prolific as what Tom's fished. So I'm not, most of the time when I'm fishing free on a spot, it's normally always about the chances of the hook bait sitting perfect or something like that. I know I've got 3 good chances. Like one
got
might
3
not,
lives out
one
there.
might not be right. One might have got snarled up in a little bit of weed or whatever. So I'm always think one of them's going to be golden. So I was just going to say, how much, like for you, Tom, if from tomorrow we said to you, right, go and have a month with 1 rod. Like you can only have 1 rod, you've got to go to Linear and all these places with just 1 rod. The only thing that's going to really change for you is going to be double takes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything else is going to stay exactly the same. Or do you think it'd get a massively different result?
Well, I think a big part of it as well is having confidence that your hook baits are on top of your bait. That was the biggest thing that fried my head at Gigantica, was the depth, because I don't fish anywhere that's 25 foot deep.
No, I was going. Was my next question.
I think a lot of us don't really fish places that are that deep. So in your head before you go, like I'd spoke to Stokesy, I'd spoke to Dan, and they were like, I clip up this far behind, I clip up this far behind, and they were like, how far have you gone behind your spot? And I was like, I've only gone 6 foot. And I was like, but your hook baits are going to be in front of your bait. But when you're spodding with braid, when that spod hits the water, so I always chuck out. I always say, like, if you watch a match angler fish, they'll sit on their seat box. Every time they chuck out, they'll hold the rod in the same place every time, and time again, it will go in exactly the same place because you're holding it in the same place. So if I'm spodding, I'll hold the rod in the same place. So I hit the clip at 45 degrees, end it facing directly to where I'm fishing. Same as when I'm fishing with the rods, I'll hit the clip at 45 degrees, but as it hits the clip, I'm lowering the lead down. So it's impossible for that lead to come back towards me. And plus as well with the mono, you've got that stretch. So when you're chucking out, if you're pulling it back and then dropping it down, obviously that lead is coming back. But when that lead hits the water, it's like hitting concrete. So that lead's not going to travel forward and then pendulum right the way back. You know, as that's hitting the clip, splashing it down, then I'm sort of going down like that, and I've allowed myself 6 foot because I know that my bait is spreading probably in a 12-foot radius over that depth. You can see how far it spreads when you're just dropping it in the margins. It goes quite a way. Not so much the boilies, but the hemp. So you're fishing in and around your bait. I don't think you're ever going to be 100% accurate.
Well, you think your
100%
spot
of
is
the time.
12 foot deep?
100% it is.
I don't know, mate.
Well, you think it's tight?
Yeah, but
I think it's tighter than that, yeah.
But when you're spodding,
depends what you're putting out as well, though, doesn't it?
but when your spod's landing, say you're clipped up to the middle of this table. If your spod lands in the middle of this table, your bait doesn't just fall left and right. Like, your bait falls forward and back as well. Like, as it goes down, it's going down like an umbrella, isn't it? It's going like that. But it's not going down in 2 directions.
A little
it's
bit, not 12 foot though.
I think
but you've
you're
got
12 foot.
Do you think, Tom, in 25
25
foot of water as well, you're gonna. It depends what the
And
wind's
as
doing
well,
that day, the undertow,
when
like,
the
everything's
fish
going to
feed.
be a variable with that, isn't it? It's
You know
never
when
going to
the-
drop.
the fish feed.
The undertow thing though is that doesn't make as much difference as you think. In the top few feet it does. I've done it when I'm fishing casters. I've waded right out in really strong winds, and you throw them out. They drift for the first 2 or 3
And then
foot,
plummet.
and then they go straight. So even in that scenario, because I was trying to figure out exactly where my casters were landing, because obviously they're quite light. And yeah, in like 8-10 foot of water, it was probably a foot, 2 foot. That was it. So it probably some lakes, I think, when you've got real undertow going the other way, then maybe it's sort of doing that, but maybe it cancels itself out a bit. But I'm not sure if with somebody as good as you with a spom that's probably putting it on a dustbin lid a lot of the time.
I account for 12 foot.
That you account, maybe
it's
it
not good
is.
to see.
But
Maybe
you've
it is.
not only got carp though. You've got to remember, as that bait's going through the water, one flick of a carp's tail on a spom,
It's pushing it around as well.
that bait is going, like, we've all seen what happens when carp are in a pond. You put bread in there or you put bait in there, one fish wafts its tail and that bait goes the entire width of the pond.
Are you giving yourself any tolerance with the rods? Are you wrapping them all up exactly the same?
Yeah, so I was fishing, I think it was 31 rod lengths on the spom and 31 and a half on the rods.
Do you never, no matter what depth, do you never just have a slight, like, I don't know, 6 inches difference when you're wrapping up just to give yourself a...
Not really.
What about you guys? Do you, Tom?
No, that was my next question.
Okay.
So the last couple of times I've been to Gigantica, halfway through the week, I've put on an extra 3 or 4, 5, 6 foot onto my clips.
Your head's gone.
No. I caught similar sort of amount. I had like 20 odd bites or whatever. And I think halfway through the week, because of what you're saying about the rigs being in the same spot all of the time, I think if you're fishing exactly the same clip for 4 or 5 days, I think the fish probably think that's all safe, that bait, and this line isn't.
Yeah.
I can imagine that happening on the spot.
Yeah.
And as soon as I put them 4, 5, 6 foot further, I definitely started getting more bites.
Well, we've seen that in the
No.
underwater, haven't we? That type of feeding behaviour quite a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
then this is what I'm saying about the width of your spot. If you started at your week and you've gone 6 foot back that way and you're happy that that's the new safe zone for them, what's to say if you come 6 foot this way, it wouldn't be the same?
I'll try it. I'll try it. But
a lot of
But the only
I-
thing then you'll sort of come in, you're trying to put a rig coming through where your lines have set. When you're going past your spot, there's been no line pressure out there.
Yeah,
at
you
all.
put 1 or 2. You put 1 rod 6 foot past, and you put 1 rod 3 or 4 foot past. And then you just start getting loads more bites on the 6. I don't know whether that's because I actually only allow 3 or 4 foot on my spom, and I'm actually now in the bait, and I wasn't in the bait before. Or there is a huge spread, like you're saying, and actually I'm just putting rigs where they haven't been before.
So
but
when you make that tweak to the length that you're casting out, do
Yeah.
you then bait the same as you have been, or are you extending your spom?
no,
bait?
exactly the same.
Okay.
The point is that the rigs are just in different positions on the
got ya.
spot.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if you're happy to clip up further than where you was fishing, if you was to clip up your rods a little bit shorter than where you were fishing, that bait that you've put out there will have also come this direction towards the bank. Because if it didn't, then when you bait a spot, like particularly in weed, the only way that spot gets bigger is because the bait wafts to the edge of that
Yeah.
spot.
Yep.
And it wafts to the edge of the spot in all directions. Because when carp are feeding, and not so much the carp, but when the roach and the bream are feeding, they're picking up bits of bait and they're spitting it out as they're swimming. They just spit it out. I've seen it on We Done It Underwater, and they get bits of corn stuck in their mouth and they spit them out. So it naturally makes the spot bigger. But what you're saying is the fish are only swimming that way back into the middle of the lake. But in reality, they're swimming the whole way around that spot. You're creating a feeding area rather than a particular zone.
I'm sort of saying though that the fish are coming from that direction.
That's possible.
A lot of the time, just especially at Gigantica where you're fishing the middle, like you're saying, that the further out you go and the more accurate you fish out of range, the more you get, and that's because a lot of the fish are out in the middle, which would mean probably that they're coming from the middle most of the time, or at least it's safer at the back of the spot. I think they can definitely see lines.
Yeah,
there's no doubt in that. So dropping them shorter would mean that you're dropping them where the lines have been. And I don't see that as safe as putting them where they've just been eating bait with no lines all week.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that dropping them short would have the same result.
Well, you see that with waters, don't you, where syndicates
they don't
become
drop short on you. They go long of you, don't they?
They do, and I was going to say you see that in a lot of waters, don't you, where big lakes end up, the fish get pushed further and further and further, almost then they become impossible to catch, where they just live right out in the middle. So that theory does make sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, the more people push them back, somebody goes to a lake that's a good caster, 9 times out of 10, immediately that's their gambit, isn't it? I'm going to outcast these people, fish right out in the middle, and then it just pushes them even further.
Yeah, I would say though that his rigs are probably. I'd love to see it. Really, just we should do it somehow. Whereas he would fish and say what he thinks happened out there at that range and at that depth, and then go out and see it, and then do the same with me, who's fishing. I'm essentially fishing shorter, aren't I?
Yeah. Against my
spawn.
Yeah.
You're fishing more into your spot, so you're fishing originally where I moved my rigs to.
Yeah.
Whereas I think I'm at the I think I'm at on this edge of my bait, whereas he's probably starting in the centre.
So what's yours again? So if you were fishing, if you're wrapping your spom up at 25 wraps.
Oh no,
not 25. That's slightly different at different depths. I'm talking about at Gigantica at 30 wraps.
Okay, 30 wraps. Your carp rods are what?
My carp rods are say 30 wraps, and my spom would be 29 3/4. Maybe maybe a little bit more than that. So they're very similar. Daryl fishes them exactly the same.
Okay.
And he catches loads from there.
I'd never argue with Daryl.
No, you can't. You see, so I can't. I'm not arguing with you. No. I'm saying that you guys catch so many carp, it's a piss take. So what you're doing is working, but what your thoughts behind it? That Daryl definitely fishes them the same, because I've asked him the same question. So you can't say that his rigs aren't on his bait. They definitely are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
he's getting so many bites from knots.
It's having the confidence in your rig is dropping on your bait. Like I said, that was the biggest thing for me, that I was like, am I fishing anywhere near it? Because you're not really going to get liners at that range, are you?
Did you put a float up and cast your spawn to it, or did you just go with you've got a rule that you stick to?
Do you know what, mate? I'll be honest, right? I got in the peg and there was a massive dome tree straight in front, and on the water's edge there was 2 trees. You can see it in the video.
Is that an Alamo?
In the Alamo,
yeah.
And these 2 trees go right. They come up from the water's edge, and they cast a really nice brown shadow straight down the lake. So in the day, I knew if I landed on the left tree or the right tree, my 2 rods were going to be a couple of feet apart. And at night, should I needed to have cast, which I didn't in the end, because I never caught nothing at night, I could aim at the dome tree. So I just picked the most visual feature, chucked out. It come back nice and clear, no weed out there. I'd done a few chucks left and right. And I sort of knew that I wasn't going to go any further left and right than what I'd cast, because if I'd done that, I'd have redone the rods anyway, because they would have been probably like 12, 14 feet apart. And it was just clear enough. And the most visual feature, I was like...
Yeah, you're talking about for the distance, though.
Yeah.
Because that's how I arrived at 3 foot, is that I put the marker out at 30 wraps, then I put the spom out, reel it back to the marker, actually cast it out, and it hits the marker every time. And when you do that, there's about that much difference at that range. So you know you're right. And the only thing that you've then got to allow for that's different with the marker is the stretch in your mono. So if anything, you're further into the spot than you would be with your marker. So essentially that says it's exactly the same. That's why I'm saying that with the 6 foot difference, you're probably really in your bait.
Yeah.
But what you're saying about the 12 foot difference in the spread of the bait would also make sense, because whether you're 6 foot further or 6 foot shorter, we're all still catching loads of fish.
Yeah, I like Maker's method. There's a lot more tolerance there, isn't there? Your method.
Yeah, it's like all and it really makes a difference what you do with your lead when it hits the. I've seen you do similar to me, where you'll cast out the line will stretch and you'll keep the rod out like this, whereas quite a few people cast out and sort of almost like pull the rod tip back to fill it back, but then you're definitely pulling that rig back, which would allow for the 6 foot extra you've put on.
And I think I asked this Tom just now, he's wrapping them up exactly the same. At that range, are you doing all your rods exactly the same, or do you allow a little bit on each rod just so you've got a...
I'll put my maybe my middle rod a foot or two further, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure it makes a difference. It's more now for me, because I've definitely seen a difference in the results of moving them rods further into the spot throughout the trip. That is definitely that definitely works.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the match lads do it, don't they? Like
They
Billy
do, yeah.
Flowers and that. If it's slowed
yeah.
down, they'll put a rod length onto their thing and put a solid bag out there and get one straight away. And the Croatia lads do the same thing, and so do the South Africans. So it's like you can definitely learn from them guys. And like, obviously Tom is like he's getting so many bites all the time. They're not getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But there's also, like, if you look into it even further, like wrapping your rods up, keeping the same consistency as the line comes off of the spool, wrapping up is a massive thing. So I went to Croatia 2 years ago, and I'd had a couple of fish, and my mate said, "Oh, I'll clip your rods up for you," and I chucked them out, and it went a bit quieter. I was like, that's a bit weird. Reeled them back in, put them in, like, because you leave them in a clip out there because of the distance you're fishing, and they was a rod length shorter than what I would have done them. And basically, because he was wrapping up under more tension, obviously the mono over that distance was stretching
He's
around the distance.
He's trying to do you over.
But you don't think
He's
of
done
things
you
like
over.
that, do you? You know, like things like that,
Well,
like
no.
wrapping your rods up the same pressure every time is a big thing. And even if you put your pole elastic on, over a few fish, that line will naturally stretch a little bit further.
Yeah, we noticed
So
that
it's
in Croatia
always
as well,
worth
didn't we?
checking.
Yeah, I've done that at Raysbury as well. It's not even that; it's even how far your sticks are apart.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody gives you wraps for a spot, or you've
Yeah.
got your own wraps
Yeah.
for a spot. I've moved from Blake's. I put my rod down, put my sticks in. I was fishing 29 and a half wraps. Went to another swim, fished the same distance, and they were like miles apart on my sticks. It's like nothing was the same. Do you know what I mean? Where
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
probably 2 inches difference or something, and every time you're wrapping, it's like
Yeah,
2
that's
inches,
right.
2 inches. You
Yeah,
add that up
it
over
all
30
adds.
wraps nearly. It's like
Yeah.
that's 6 foot or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
it's like you've got to be careful.
It's just about consistency. But I think the biggest thing is like learning when you hit the clip how to drop that lead down. And over the session, I could feel the spot was getting harder. It's really hard to feel a good drop at that distance on mono
And
anyway.
that depth as well.
But over the session, I could feel it was getting firmer. But yeah, I think the age-old thing of I'm fishing on a dustbin lid. I think you're fishing on a dustbin lid if you chuck a single solid bag out. That's your dustbin lid. But I think when you're fishing 3 rods on a spot, you have to really explore that spot to know the boundaries of it, because I don't think you're going to be baiting a small area on it. I think over the course of a session, the area becomes a spot, if that makes sense. You know, you might have a blatant gravel spot, but over the course of time, that bait gets wafted around so much more than what we think it does, that it makes a bigger area, which is good because it gives you more scope to chuck your rods.
That's handy to know.
Big spot on
You've got to
B1.
be accurate in the first place.
Big
Do you know-
outpots on B1.
Staying on that, Tom, one of the questions, I know you've had a few questions sent in, so sort of staying on that same topic, Jay Bailey has asked how many times you lads will lead about to find a spot, which I thought was quite an interesting question.
A lot.
Let's start with you, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere like Gigantica, I'll take the piss. I'll be doing it for hours if I need to.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not going on that mate's trip.
No.
Firing it up.
No, at the beginning of the week, if I know that I've, like, because of all of these things that we're talking about, and being able to put your rod 6 foot further and know that you're definitely okay if you land a little bit short or further left and right, I'll cast a lot that first day, just to make sure that I know exactly where my spot is lined up. The right hand edge of it is there, the left hand edge of it's there. It's 8 foot deep or wherever it is, so I can move them about. If I'm going to a lake that I'm fishing a lot, I put a lot of value on knowing the spots already and being able to get out quickly, because you don't want to cut. They don't like leads. That's
No,
a
you don't
fact.
be thrashing up every
No,
time.
they
you go to
really
the
don't.
same
So
lake, yeah.
I'll try and do it as little as I possibly can. But if I know I'm in a swim for a week, I'm happy to really give it a proper search out there to find the best spot, because I've done it before 10, 15, 20 years ago when I first started going to France, where you want to try and get out quickly. You get to Monday or Tuesday and you're like, fuck, I should have found a better spot. I've got out too quick, and really I should have found the best spot out there and give it my all from Saturday, and you can build on the best spot. Whereas if you don't find it in the first place, you've fuck your whole week.
Well, and it gives you options, doesn't it? Especially, like, say, if you've got a week and you find something on the right hand side of the swim, you think, I'm not going to touch that at the moment because I know that's the money out there. You know, you've always got something to drop back to if it's not going well, don't you?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
good.
what about you boys?
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah,
Spence?
similar. I try to find, the more I've done
a big
three
spot.
on an area. Let's not call it a spot.
3 in the lake.
Like a gravel
Lake's
road.
clear.
I spend time looking for that, the sort of smoothness. Hate fishing over gravel. In certain situations you will do, but we saw that on underwater. We've sort of avoided that really crunchy gravel for a long time, and it proved our theories right when we really struggled to present properly on it, didn't we? I know it's different when you can see it on an underwater camera, but it sort of enforced what we've been thinking. So I spend time looking for that smoothness. Gigantic is exactly the same. There are definitely some firmer, smooth areas out there, and I'm sort of echoing what Tom said. Really, that first day is crucial. You know, you want to know that you're not wasting your week from the get go.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much. I always think if I'm doing a night, 2 nights, or a week, I want to make sure that I can go to bed and put them rods out and know that they're the best I can possibly have done. Even if I'm doing, say, a night, you know, the syndicate that I was on, prime example, I leaded for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, to not necessarily to find the perfect spot, but to find somewhere that I was happy that I could present on. There might have been somewhere nicer, a bit closer in, you know, a bit further out, but where I found was just a nice, comfortable distance that I knew I could bait and fish no matter how sort of the weather changed. And it was just somewhere that was like, it was clear enough, and I was happy enough, but it took a long time to find it, get everything clipped up. I took a picture of it, made notes, so I knew everything was perfect. But I always think if I can go to bed and I feel I found the best possible spot in my peg that suits me for the fishing that I'm going to be doing, I'm more than happy in it. Not that I don't care how many chucks it takes, because obviously you have got to still have a little bit of respect for the other anglers that are around you. You know, I wouldn't like someone rocking up and leading it for 2 hours next to me,
like him,
like Tom. But at certain times of the day, it's not a problem. And I've sort of grown to learn over the years that, especially fishing on the day tickets, if someone's paid 30 quid, 40 quid for a night's fishing, as far as I'm concerned, that piece of water in front of them is their bit of water. Whether they choose to chuck once or 1,000 times, they can do what they want.
They take the
But
choice.
I want to know that the spot that I found is perfect. You know, and whether it takes me 1 chuck or 100 chucks, then it will. But Gigantica was a bit different because, like I say, the swing back was really playing on my mind. But then I sort of, in the margins, I was flicking the lead in the margins, and I was dropping it down, and you could see the lead was just dropping vertical. Whereas if you was holding it in 7 foot, it was coming back a little bit. So I sort of thought to myself, well, if I hit the clip and sort of not throw the rod forward, but feel the lead down with the rod going forward, that lead can only drop straight down.
Yeah, no.
And once I got around that, it was all right. But
everyone has the same thoughts.
Yeah,
but that's what's
everyone.
great. That's what's great about fishing, though, isn't it? Is everyone will have a theory, but who's actually really right? The answer.
Well, the people catching loads, the ones getting it
but
right.
I think the ultimate thing is going and being confident in what you're doing. You know, if you're catching in a certain way, how you hold the rod, then you've got to stick with that. It's very easy to be waylaid by what other people are doing, but if I chuck my rods out fishing on a spot, it would be different to how you chuck your rods out. It would be different to how I've seen Darryl chuck his rods out on the videos, and I wouldn't hold the rod how he holds the rod, but for him, he knows how, you know, his kit works. He, again, with the stretch of the mono, he knows how everything's working. But the one thing that people have got that catch a lot of fish in that way is they're consistent.
Yeah.
And they do everything the same every time. You know, the swim will be set out the same. They hold the rod the same. They stand in the same place every time. You know, all the small little percentages. And again, going back to Dale, that's what he says. All the small little percentages make the biggest differences, and they absolutely do. We can all go out and get the same kit as what everyone else has got, but them small things make such big differences.
I think that's the same with anything in life, isn't it? Especially with fishing. I think that is the tiny little differences, the that'll do to that is perfect. There's the difference, isn't it, between constantly catching, being consistent, and not. You see people do it all the time, and I know people go fishing for different reasons, and you can't, if somebody does just rock up, get the rods out, and they're chatting to their mate, and they just cast out and don't feel the lead down, and they might catch one week and then they don't catch for 5, they don't care, do they, some people, because they're not there for that reason. But if you do want to be consistent and you're getting frustrated with not catching, they're listening to a podcast like this with all them tiny little differences. Unless you start putting them into your angling, your results are going to stay the same, aren't they? You know, so I would say anybody like that, be consistent, like you say, have that is perfect rather than that'll do.
Never have a that'll do attitude.
No.
That's what I always say. If someone says to me, I chucked out, that'll do, that's good enough, I'm like, Is it though? Like, go to bed when you're happy with how they've gone out.
Yeah,
That's what I
Christ, I
would
won't
say.
get any sleep.
yeah. There is nothing worse than that, though, is there? When you because we've all done that, where you re-chucked in the night and it's pissing down or something. And you how many times have you done it? I've done it loads of times where you get in bed and then you go, I fucking can't leave that.
Yeah.
And you end up getting up, you get wet anyway. You think I might as well have done that to start with.
Yeah.
I think you have got to just make sure you.
Yeah, I've got
you
to
do
the
that
point now
every
where I
time.
just don't. Yeah, like Tom,
Yeah.
I just don't put it on the rest because I know I'll do that.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
no good. And then one more question, sorry.
Go on.
So you're fishing, like Reed was saying earlier, you've got one rod that's doing bites all the time. You're thinking there's something wrong with that rod because it should have gone. Do you wait for one of your other rods to go to redo it, or do you just buzz it in and cause the disturbance with the lead even when you haven't caught one?
I normally, I'll redo all of them.
You redo all of them?
All of them. I think if you're going to redo one, you might as well redo them all. Because how many times, like you said about finding the gravel and it hinders your presentation, when we're finding a spot, say the spot's as big as this table again, when you're dragging your lead back, your lead is only, an inch wide, if that. So you're only feeling what is in an inch width. You could be an inch away from a stone or something, and there could be multiple stones. And if the rods aren't going, it could be because of that. So rather than just redoing one, I think to myself, do you know what, I'll bring them all in, clip them all back up, put them all back out there, bit more bait over the top, and then go again, because they could be hindered ever so slightly.
But even if you're so you start getting bites at first light normally,
Yeah.
on your left-hand rod, you haven't got that one, but you've had one on your middle, you've put it back out, and then everything's quiet for an hour or so, and it's like you're essentially in the middle of bite time.
Yeah.
How quickly would you go, something's not right here, I'm just going to redo it? Redo all of them on bite time?
Yeah.
You're happy to do that?
Happy to do that.
Okay.
But then you've got to imagine again, I would say the place I'm fishing have got a fair number of carp in. Like my Syndicate's probably the least stocked venue that I fished for a long time. You know, you've got a couple of hundred fish in 25 acres, but I would do exactly the same on there as well.
So
because in my own head, I've got to be happy that that bait is presented, and if overnight something's picked that bait up, it could have hindered the presentation, and it's better to redo it than to reel in 6-8 hours time and think, bloody hell, the bait's been taken off, or there's a roach sat on the end of it that you didn't know was there.
Yeah, no, I hear. And then so when you're redoing them, you would reel all your rods in. Do you put out spom first, leads after, or do you put out leads first, spom after, or do you put spom, lead, spom?
No, leads out first because lead spook the fish, spom over the top because that attracts the fish back in.
Okay, so you always just go leads
first, spom on top.
Right, okay.
That's my theory. I might be.
These are all things that make a difference.
I might be completely wrong.
Tom's literally used this whole hour podcast just going, right, I'm going to fish like Tom Maker. So you do this, you do that.
No, he's doing it pretty similar anyway, I'd imagine.
No, I do it very, very
Yeah,
similar. No, actually, the only thing I do different is I'll put spoms out first. I'll put out, say I'm going to put out 10 spoms. If I'm going to redo all my rods, I'll put out 3-4 spoms.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't think...
Yeah, but why would you put the bait out first?
Because I don't think they always are attracted to the bait. I think I would rather sort of, like you would if you're in the edge and a fish is feeding and you need to get the rig in position, I would throw some pellet out to scare the fish out, because I would rather them spook from the sound of the pellet. I really think they hate leads. And I think if I just went crush with a lead on top of it, I don't think it would come back. But I think if I threw pellet out and he was like, what the fuck's that? I think I can then put my lead in and he'll come back in.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well,
in fact, that is true. Even if you're floater fishing and you want to get your floater out, I'd rather put 3 pouches of pellets out than stop feeding. Then I'd put the controller back out, then put some more pellets out. I think you're more likely to get them back in the swim than if you just go crashing in with a controller on top of them. So I'd rather them spook out with the spom. Yeah. Whereas you fish loads of lakes with loads of carp in, and they definitely like the sound of the spom. Yeah. So maybe on the lake where like B1 or something, I wouldn't do that. But the lakes I'm fishing have got a little bit less carp in. So I'd rather them spook from the spom.
Do you put any more once the rigs have gone out? Do you put like one more over each rod or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll put half and half. I'll put spom, rigs, spom.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. And I also like to gauge the distance again. I would rather miscast my spom than I would my leads. So I'll gauge, say you're fishing 32 wraps, I'd rather put one out to put 2 or 3 spoms out, then I know exactly where I'm going and where I'm at with the leads, and I'll get my rigs out much quicker that way, and then I can put the spoms back out.
This has been great. It just shows you everyone does things slightly
it's a long
differently.
way around doing it.
It's not. It's
3 rods, 5 spoms, back in bed. That's what I think.
Yeah, well, it's not that much slower though, really. I don't think. So the rod's there with the bait, and I'll just put the 3 things out, and I'll gauge what the wind's. I think it's more important to get the rigs in position than the bait.
Yeah.
Going back to what you've said, and we've all said it time and time again, it is still about doing what you're confident in.
Yeah.
Because you both catch loads and loads of carp. You both do it slightly different, so it's not making a huge difference either way.
That's a really small difference, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah,
Well,
it's interesting.
It is
really interesting.
There's no definitive answer to it.
No, of course it's not.
And even if you was to spod and bait and 3 rods on an area and go out and find them with a camera or go and visually see them, you would not be as accurate as what you think you are. It's impossible that you're as. There's too many factors to take into consideration when it comes to fishing. Bang on, braid is fine. Like braid fishing, braid spot is as good as you're ever going to get in shallow waters. Perfect. When you start taking into consideration your lead size, the stretch of the mono, the crosswind, the undertow, how you hold the rod, there's so many factors to it. Not hitting the clip, yeah. Fishing a bigger spread. You know, there's so many things.
That's why I've gone to the boat fishing now. Don't worry about that. It's I'm sick of missing the clip. That'll do.
But that's what I love about that type of fishing is you're never going to be 100% perfect, but if you can fish 80% all the time, I'm happy with that. Like that's good enough for me. But it was nice to go to Gigantica and actually catch off the bottom. Because they were the first fish I've ever caught out there off the bottom. So I know that fishing in deep water, I can do it.
You'll be all right.
I think you're going to be all right.
I'll have another go.
Well, this has been great. It has slightly derailed where we were going with this. But it's been good. It's been really good. I think there's loads to learn from there, loads of topics. You have got a load more questions, Tom, which I'll nick off you before you disappear, because we'll just carry them over. Because you've got some really good ones there. Let's just have a quick go round. If anyone's been out fishing and if everyone's got any plans to go fishing, everyone likes to hear. So what about you? To start with you, Tom, what's your plans for the next couple of weeks? Are you getting out?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of like group tutorial sessions. The past few weeks have been really good. Obviously, we've been out filming, haven't we? That was really good.
Really good fun.
Then I went out and filmed again last week for a masterclass. That was really good. But the summertime now, I've just got like more commitments of like tutorial sessions. We've got the contender thing to do. That's in August.
It is.
And then the back end of the year, that's when I'm going to do a few more trips away. But I'll go out every week fishing.
Yeah, nice.
I would go fishing even if I didn't need to go fishing. Because I just sit in the house and I'm just like,
what am I doing here?
I'm just going to go fishing. Yeah. And even if I drive to a lake just to get a fix to go to the lake, I'll just go and do it.
Most people have got a job, mate.
And I have actually got a new ticket that started. The Cardiff Wharf.
I was going to say Raisby, and I was going to go brilliant.
Where's that?
You know Cardiff Wharf, the dock in Cardiff?
No.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you do.
Is it on one of the? Somebody done a film on there?
Yeah.
Everyone, I think.
There's quite a few films.
Yeah, no, I have seen it.
Elliot done a film on there.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I've got to, it's just a little bit different, you know.
Very different.
It reminds me very much of fishing Walthamstow. Bit of like an urban environment. It's only 50 minutes from my house, and I went over there and had a look around it and
liked it.
It's different to anything that I would normally do, but it's one of them places where it's like, do you know what? I'm going to go and have a go. It's 50 minutes from my house. You know, it's not a mega expensive ticket.
Like Tom said, you ain't really got a job, so you can just
got no job. It's like pretty much homeless. So I might as well just go and pitch up over there. But so I'm out every week, but a few commitments like the next like sort of month or so.
Yeah.
But I love it. I've done a lot more of my own, like not like personal fishing, but like specifically tried to target a fish.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the size of a fish, but like just going somewhere with a purpose. You know, I love going fishing anyway, but like if that rod goes off, it could be that fish that I would like to catch. And it's been quite enjoyable doing that because it makes you carry on wanting to catch more. You know, if you get a couple of fish, you think, just reel them in for the night. But you think, actually, the next one could be that one that I want. So it's been nice this year doing that. But like I say, because I'm obviously homeless and, you know,
you can do it.
I've got no job. I'm very fortunate to do that.
I've done a great deal. I was up at Linear with Scott Lloyd's Carp and Show thing, and I did a night in Hardwick. So I literally walked into a swim, rung Tom and said, I'm in this swim, what do I aim at? And he told me the wraps. Baited up, caught nothing, But in the morning there was loads of fish showing.
Because you were so far off the
Exactly.
bait.
There was
He's
no-
absolutely
He's spread
mugged
his
you off there.
36 foot, not 12.
One in Hardwick,
And
one
I
in
had
Smith.
but there was loads of fish showing short in the morning, so I just put an adjustable zig out and caught a 20-pound common before leaving.
Oh, happy
Oh,
days.
nice.
And then- yeah, it was nice.
Oh, lovely.
And then me and Tom are back out next week. We've got another
Big match next week.
big match.
That is big.
Another
We've got
Dublin Spooner.
we've got Daryl and Dan
Oh, brilliant.
next week at Balkin. So that's going to be a
But
big,
I've got to be
big,
honest,
big
what I'm
match.
most excited about is going to see Oasis on Friday night.
Are you going to see Oasis?
Opening night in Manchester.
He hasn't stopped
hell.
I am
talking
so
about
Mum-
it.
Mum-
Nancy on the back and all that? Have you
Really?
doing all that with you?
All of it.
Yeah.
I'll
Good.
bucket out.
Yeah,
It was
nice.
amazing.
Amazing.
She went to Cardiff on the 5th of July, so I think they opened up on the 4th.
They did, yeah. Saturday
She
night
went
was
on the 5th.
Yeah.
She
They
said
still
was
got it?
Unbelievable.
They
Really?
sound amazing.
They still got it, yeah?
I'm not into Oasis, but I love that when there's like, is it 80,000 people?
Yeah,
going to be there
70,000 on the
all
heating
going
part.
mad. That is an amazing.
She said it was good
atmosphere now.
because they just didn't really do a load of talking in between
No, they
songs.
just sing,
They
yep.
had the like the support acts to start with, and obviously on the break, but they just come out and they basically said, "We're not here to talk. We're not here to waste your time. Let's just have a good time." She said, and they just sung. She said it was just unbelievable.
This is where it's the ultimate for me, because Oasis were always the ultimate, but my number 2 was the Verve. And Richard Ashcroft supporting. So it's
yeah.
like, it's going to be the ultimate.
You'll be in your
night.
element.
I
Just
am
thought of a
gonna be
great thumbnail
in
for
my
this
element.
now.
Stone Island
Great.
jacket.
Yeah. Try and tap them up, get them on the verses. That'd be a good one. Noel and Liam versus you two.
Sam might be able to sort
You
it.
probably could.
Yeah.
What about you, Davey? What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? So I went to go to Raisbury a couple of weeks ago. Turned up, saw fish show, then looked left and they were spawning. So then I had
Straight out then.
Yeah, I nearly. No, it was really annoying actually because we'd had really hot weather before it, and I got there and it was overcast, wind pushing into the swim. I wanted to fish. One jumped out. I thought, "Oh, lovely!" Put my bucket down. Went to walk away, and I heard something that was a bit sus. So I sort of looked around the tree and I saw them, and there was big fish as well spawning about sort of 50 yards out, maybe 30 yards to the left. And then I thought, I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes, seeing if it's just a random, group, because they've already done it. And then another group started, and then I was like, oh no. So I walked up the other end of the lake. They normally shut half the lake at Raisbury. Walked up the other end, looked out towards the spot I normally fish, and they was doing it just to the left of it as well. So I thought, I can't fish. So I was thinking of going to one of the to the cons, but I ended up just going to K1 because I've got a black card on RK, and thought I'd just go and fish one of the other lakes for a night. Ended up catching a bream out of there, no carp. And then the following week, I needed a night and left first thing in the morning because I like K1, but it's not where I'm fishing, and I just sort of I felt like I was just wasting my time there. And then the following week, I did a charity do at Frimley, fish with a lovely guy called Dan. He caught 3 fish, 2 out of Frimley 2 and 1 out of Frimley 3, all off the surface.
Nice.
So it was a really good trip. And then this week now, and I was going to go back to Raisbury this week, but it's still shut.
Oh, nice.
So we'll see. I don't know what I'm doing this week. I might go somewhere else.
Back out next week.
Yeah, mate. Yeah,
Oh,
then we've got that big match next week.
Big.
Looking forward to that.
What about you, Adam? Have you been
Hang on,
out?
whoa. He can't talk
He's
about
been
it.
bullied.
Can I just say, what I said was, at the beginning of this podcast, Tom said, I can't wait to talk about all your river fish you've had and how it's been going. But I said, I don't want to bore people to tears with it. We done it last week. I said, we'll have a catch-up maybe next week or the next one because it's going well. I'm consistently doing a night a week.
Okay.
I've caught some lovely carp, and I don't want to bore everyone to tears with it.
That's
So I
fine.
think it's going to be more...
You have to tell us the name of the guy that's bullying you after.
Yeah, they all think I'm getting massively bullied and I'm not allowed to talk about it.
I'll
But
get it
also, we're
sorted
going
out.
to be obviously trying to make a video on there, and I don't want to have it all out there and not have some nice surprises
Never
come for the
stopped you
video.
before.
But
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it in a few weeks then.
no, we will. We definitely will.
okay.
But I just want to do a couple of shout-outs, actually. One is I'm going to put a link in this, or we're going to put a link in this, because we're doing a charity event. A few of the lads here from Korda, myself, John, Wager, John Mann, and who else is doing it, John?
Oh, it's embarrassing.
And Ross. Oh, it's easy to forget. Ross, he's never in, is he? So I never get to see his face. So I forget about him. Tomo. Yeah, we're doing a 10-mile hike, 12.
Do you know? Are you
Yes, I
actually?
do. No, sorry.
John, what are you doing, mate?
There's a lot going on.
boring
No,
us.
listen, a
Mate,
12K
I'd rather you talk about the Thames again.
a 12k bike ride and then a
Jeez.
1.5k
All right, come
kayak.
on,
all right,
yeah.
we're doing it all for
All right,
Lennox.
put the link in. Great,
We're
well
gonna
done,
put
mate.
the link
Charity
in.
work, brilliant. Well,
Can I just tell everyone, actually, Tom hasn't actually donated yet, so make sure you put in the comments what you're doing,
donate,
Tom.
don't worry. Have you donated?
I've donated.
How much?
Twice,
How
actually.
much?
I have, and my missus has.
How much?
50 quid
50 quid between you both or each?
between us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see what
Joint
we're doing
account.
Yeah,
Joint
Yeah,
account.
From the joint
but it's
account.
great. The other thing I want to shout out just quickly, just because it's been incredible, is the contender thing we put out this week.
Yeah.
I've
Unbelievable.
had a lot
unbelievable.
of messages off the back
Same.
of that.
Crazy.
Yeah, we've talked about doing it for a while, and we'd obviously stopped Carp Academy as well, just because there was so much going on in the year. And after COVID, I think we stopped it and we never started again. It was one of them things. And then it was always something difficult to organise and get in. But this year we were just like, we really needed to do this because it will well taken up. And like we thought we might struggle the first year because we didn't really know how many young carp anglers there were. But we've had over 1,000 entries, I think.
Have we?
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
incredible.
Really?
Amazing.
Of between 13 and 18-year-olds.
Oh my god!
Which is an
That's gone well
amazing...
then.
What?
Yeah. It shocked me.
Great sign for the
Yeah.
future of
Yeah,
carp
it
fishing,
is.
isn't it?
Wow.
So we'll do this year as we said that we would do, and then we will try and expand it the year after. Whether that's doing, we talked about doing regional events or maybe just expanding the event to the whole of Norton Disney. But whatever it is, it's obviously going to turn into a monster. So
We're all there, aren't we? We're all there. Everyone
Yeah,
else?
we're all there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Brilliant.
yeah. I'm really looking forward to it.
Wow,
Actually, I
good
think
that.
it's something that we really should do, and will be an amazing event. So
Yeah, brilliant.
I look forward to seeing you lads there.
You will. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone, for listening.